Hello, welcome back to Ireland AM. Now we are talking all things polyamory.
We are joined
All of them.
to discuss a polyamorous lifestyle, is that right? And the increased awareness surrounding it in the media is sex educator and author Ruby Rare. Good morning to you, Ruby. Thanks so much for joining us. Listen, I have to start off, explain to us, what is polyamory?
I'm presuming that neither of you have a great level of knowledge on this, just off the bat, right?
Well, Warren knows it very well. Me, not so much. But let's just think about our viewers this morning who might not be too aware.
I got my first relationship when I was like 33. I haven't a clue, Ruby, of any of it. Go on.
I'm not publicly outing anyone today. So polyamory and non-monogamy, it's kind of what it says on the tin. It's what's not monogamous. We've all grown up with this very strict script of what relationships are meant to look like, and that is meant to be monogamous, one person, just that's it, romance and sex all squidged in there. And the idea of non-monogamy and polyamory is opening that up and exploring different connections, and they can look and feel really different. There are so many ways of doing this. That's why I wrote a whole book about it. But it's kind of inviting people to be a bit more curious in designing their own relationships.
And this is the non-monogamy playbook, because when you think about society now, when you think about the millennia, right? We used to die at what? In our 30s, then our 40s, 50s. We're living an awful lot longer now. So therefore, when you used to be with a partner for 10, 20 years, now it could be 50, 60, 70 years if you get with someone when you're in your 20s. Divorce rates, cheating rates, they're all things that come into modern day life. So does monogamy look an awful lot different to what it used to anyway?
You've got a very practical approach to this, which I appreciate. And yeah, there's definitely a part of that in there, being realistic about what modern relationships look like. And I think the pressure that we end up putting on them, you know, there's a brilliant therapist and speaker, Esther Perel, and she talks about this idea now that a monogamous relationship, we're looking for our best friend, our soulmate, the best lover of our life, and like the person we're doing a family with and maybe running a business with. And that's an awful lot of pressure to put on one person. That's not to say that that's a bad thing, but I guess there are more and more people like me who are really curious about the different ways we can do things and appreciating the variety of different relationships you can have in your life. So for me, this isn't just about romance and the people that I'm sleeping with. It's also really genuinely like revolutionized the way that I approach friendships and my platonic connections as well.
So how does it work for you?
I love questions like this. It's so broad and open-minded. So I've been doing a version of non-monogamy for a decade now. And that has looked and felt really different at different times. I've had like significant relationships, like more than one at the same time. And right now I've got a handful of really lovely people who I've been with for, you know, some of them years. And it's hard to describe, because I know for you guys, maybe this feels completely wild and out of the ordinary. For me, it's been a decade and this just feels really normal. But yeah, I have multiple loving and sexual connections, and it's by and large really nice.
And Ruby, with those sexual connections, because I suppose I'm thinking of a hub, there's, you know, someone I know who's polyamorous, and she's at the center of this, and then there would be like a main partner, then a secondary partner, and a third partner sort of a thing. Is that what it's like? Are they all involved in the relationship as well, with one person at the center, or is it a cosmos?
I like the idea of a cosmos. There's a nice place called a polycule, which is like a kind of collection of people who are all connected through some way or other through polyamory. And I guess that's quite similar to the idea of a chosen family, which comes from the queer community. For me, I'm a queer person as well as a polyamorous person, so they feel very connected in my life. Yeah, there are so many different ways of doing it. What you've described of your friend is a more hierarchical approach, where there's like maybe a primary relationship and then other relationships around it. That's one way of doing it, but you can also completely flip that on its head and look at it in a really different way. That's why I did write a whole book trying to explain this, because it's a lot of information to get into a small segment.
Must be some size of a book. I'm afraid we don't have it here because there's a lot into it. I mean, like the rise in Ireland, there you have it. Wow. 10,000 people in Ireland downloaded this dating app Field, is that what it is? So that's about people who are based and interested in non-monogamy. Like, why do you think, like, our traditional relationships, are they out the window now? Is there a new generation coming through that want to try things different and this is the future?
Yes and no. I don't think we're taking over. And I can speak for myself. Me writing about this and wanting to talk about it more, this isn't a recruitment strategy. I don't win the more people start trying this. So I promise. I'm not trying to bring people over to the dark
side. Who have you got your eyes on?
Hey, but I think it's really wonderful to kind of see stats like that from an app like Field. I do some work with them. I think that that's a really brilliant platform for people who just want to try things a bit differently, and how wonderful and liberating that we have the options to do that now, and also the options to like give things a go and make some mistakes, and there be a bit of inherent mess in this, as there are in all relationships. It's okay to give this stuff a try. And I like that there's more options out there now. It doesn't mean this has to be for you, but, you know, take 10 years ago, no one knew about any of this language. And now you're talking about like knowing someone in your life who is polyamorous. There is a shift, but don't worry, we're not going to like take over.
But but it is the sort of thing, like, because if you're open in this, it's, you know, if you're cheating, you don't know what's going on with sexual health, you know, that kind of way. It can be much more open. But also Michael Fabricant, the Tory MP, has spoken about on Celebrity Big Brother just the other night about his polyamory, and that's the relationship that he has. So now it's just something that you can speak about. It has always been around. So for anyone who was interested in this sort of a lifestyle, you began this a decade ago. So what would you say to them about exploring it?
The two main things that I've really wanted to put across in the book is about trying to embrace mess, because we come into anything a bit new and scary and we immediately have this idea that we have to like find life hacks to make it completely mess-free and make no mistakes. And that just isn't the case in any kind of relationship. There's going to be difficult things. So trying to shed being such a perfectionist about this and have a kinder and more human approach, and just get better at having conversations about this. I think there are so many people where, whether it's about open relationships or if it's about, you know, sexuality or some kind of kink, we've all got different things that we might want to try in our lives. And I want to create an environment where we are better able to talk about that to ourselves and to the people that we care about.
How does sex education come into this in terms of schools and trying to be so much more open-minded?
Well, what we're not doing is going into schools and saying, hey, kids, do you want to be polyamorous? I'm a big advocate for making sure that all education is very age appropriate. And I never go, I mean, no one qualified to teach sex education is going in and kind of instructing young people what to do. But it's about kind of being led by their questions. And I've gone into schools before and people have asked questions about open relationships, and it's saying, yeah, this is something that happens. You know, adults can form like consensual and caring relationships in lots of different ways. So you're not shutting down those conversations, but you're also not like trying to sell them in any kind of way.
But it's also interesting what you've said as someone who works within this field extensively, that it's not like, you know, young ones in their 20s just having a bit, that the biggest cohort involved in this are people in their 40s with children.
Yeah, big time. I mean, that's maybe slightly biased because that's just me observing that in my friendship groups as well.
Yeah.
But we really assume that it's this young thing. And actually the stats showed that from Gen Z to millennials to Gen X, it's all pretty similar. Once we get to the boomers, there's a little bit more hesitancy. But then, as you were saying, whenever we ask questions of older generations, always there are surprising stories in there. Non-monogamy is not a new thing. We've been doing this forever. We just are finding it a bit easier to talk about now, maybe.
The book is called The Non-Monogamy Playbook, Exploring Polyamory and Open Relationships with Confidence. Ruby Rare, it has been a pleasure talking to you this morning. Thanks so much.
Thank you, darlings.
Thanks a million, Ruby. Cheers. She was like, lads, I'm half a coffee in now. Can we take this? Can we were like, we're on our fifth, Ruby. We're on our fifth. Now, coming up, we're bringing the sunshine to your wardrobe with some spring styles.
We're also going to be having a salmon salad in the kitchen.